Good afternoon. I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to call to order the Public Works Finance and Safety Committee meeting of Tuesday, February 19th, 2019. The first item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion and a second for approval? Moved by Roby. Second by Lallam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 2 is public input. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in the open? See none, I'll close that. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion and second for approval? Moved by Vilhauer, second by Y. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 4 is council consideration of change order number 1 for the Bramble Park Zoo Shop building project with Lakeside Construction in the amount of $3,214.67. And I'm going to ask Heath to tell us about this, but first I just want to say all of the actions that are taken here at the committee meeting are just recommendations to the full council, and the actual action approving or removing or whatever of an item occurs at the full council meeting. And so this item happens to be on the consent agenda for the council meeting. If someone would want to pull it off the consent to talk about it more at that time, they could certainly do that, one of the council members. But with that, I'll let Heath tell us about it.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So this particular item is the change order in relation to the Bramble Park Zoo Shop building that was constructed this last summer. This came before the council here a few meetings ago. Unfortunately, I wasn't at that meeting, but Colin brought forth some questions from that meeting that we have since researched. And the primary concern, I believe, was that given the type of contract this is, a lump sum bid contract, whether or not we should be entertaining a change order for one of the items within that lump sum bid. So we did a little bit of research on that because it was a valid question or concern that we didn't have an answer to that evening. And in talking with the park superintendent and the contractor and his subcontractor, we did find that the basis for this we feel is warranted. And the reason being is the brunt of the material that we're paying for in this change order, the additional base course, was due to tree removals on the zoo property that occurred outside this lump sum contract through other city efforts. Those tree removals included the root ball removals, which left some rather sizable voids in the ground that this contractor needed to account for in his base course backfill procedures and getting the site up to grade for the shop building. And so given those circumstances, we feel that this change order is warranted under this contract, and we'd be happy to help answer any questions the council might have.
Great, thank you for that. Are there any questions? You may recall this one, we didn't really know why the gravel cost was high. So I'm not seeing any questions. I need a motion and a second for approval. I don't think I got that yet, did I, Lori? No, okay. Got a motion? So moved by Vilhauer, second by Lallam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. And we just saw that building. Was that what you were going to say? It's beautiful, and it's not fancy or anything, but it's very nice. And I'm sure that the zoo staff greatly appreciates it.
Well, with the winter we've had, they've appreciated it greatly. They can get their equipment in there and get it thawed out. Whereas in previous years they had to plug it in and didn't know if it would start and ended up spending considerable time getting vehicles and equipment to start. Now they just go in and turn the key and they're off to work. So it's been great just from that standpoint alone.
Great. Did you want to add something, Glenn?
Also, just a reminder that the Zoo Society did pay roughly half the cost of that building as well. Right, I think that was about half, wasn't it?
Well, they're actually going to pay over half.
Over half, okay.
The $89,450 that the city committed to it, that will be the final cost to the city. The remainder will be made up by the Lake Area Zoological Society.
Great. Yep. If you get over to the zoo, that's a take a look at it. It's a nice addition. Thanks, Jay. Item number 5 is the Police Department 2018 Annual Report. And we have Police Chief McPeak and Assistant Chief Toomey here to tell us all about this. I don't think your mic's on, Lee.
John told us we got
Okay.
15 minutes.
Oh.
So just real quick, appreciate the opportunity this evening to present our year-end report. We intended to do it a couple weeks ago, but we got our request into Kristen a little late. She said, nah, you can do it in 2 weeks. So here we are. Thanks, Kristen. So real quick, I'll give you some basic background stuff, and then Tim's going to go through a short PowerPoint he created to kind of hit some of the stats. But the full report is available on our website, watertownpd.com. Anybody in the community can go out and take a look. If they have any questions, they're encouraged to contact Tim or myself. We'll try to answer those questions for them the best we can. Few things that that stuck out to us this year is that our calls for service remained about the same for the last 5 years. We're rating at 22,000 calls for service. Adult arrests were up last year, 2018, from 2017, about 15%. And a lot of that attributed to our marijuana arrests. They went up 48%, and 7% increase in controlled substance arrests. So I wanted to point that out real quick. And then also, just a couple things that I wanted to mention before Tim shows his PowerPoint is our juvenile arrests went down 4%. We're pretty fortunate here in Watertown to have a real low crime rate with our juveniles, and it actually went down 4%. 283 citations were issued in 2018. Traffic citations were also down 19% from 2017, and they're down 8% from our 5-year average. Last year, 2018, we issued 1,372 traffic tickets and 3,148 warning tickets. So it's pretty good, very reasonable ticket to warning ratio, I feel. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim. He'll show you his PowerPoint, and then we'll sure field any questions you might have.
All right. Mayor and council, thanks for having me. I got a quick presentation. It's our chance to brag a little bit. In my many years of law enforcement, every day I'm still amazed at what our team accomplishes. It's done quietly, without much notice, but it's incredible if you really dive into what we do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm just going to go over some of the highlights of the year that was accomplished by the Watertown Police Department. I put in here mission accomplished. You know, our mission is to provide superior law enforcement services to the community while making Watertown a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. And it's we definitely accomplished that mission this year. A lot of crime is down, and you'll see by these numbers, it's impressive. And we'd be happy to answer the questions as I go along or at the end. So mission accomplished by these fine folks that I'm in awe of every day. I want to start with the 911 center. We have 15 dispatchers, 4 of which are part-time. They were our 2018 unit of the year. These guys and girls do tremendous work. The call volume, they received over 12,000 911 calls alone, 12,000 911 calls. That's not including all the calls for service and other calls that they handle. And the quality assurance scores is they dissect each one of their calls and they assign it a score. So whenever there's an emergency medical dispatch or an emergency fire dispatch, they'll go back and review that call to make sure that we provided the services that the community deserves. And their scores are well above, well, not well above, national average is about 95%, and their scores are 97, 98%. So they do tremendous work. There was 43,656 calls for service for the 7 counties that we serve. That's an extraordinary amount of calls for service. 22,000, over 22,000 are for Watertown alone. If the council members are wondering about their own districts, this breaks down those calls for each district. So you could see at the end there's 22,100 in total calls for service. So that's an interesting statistic, and we review these numbers so that we can deploy our resources where we need to throughout the year. So well done on Scott McMahon. Captain McMahon runs that 911 center. He does a tremendous job, and those are amazing people. I mean, could you just, I was out working patrol the other day, and there was a lady that was in medical distress. She was having cardiac arrest, and I was actually on scene while dispatchers were talking to the distraught husband. And it was an incredible thing what they can do to be able to bring somebody back down to be able to provide some good advice for them to give medical help. It's incredible. So another group of unsung heroes are the Records Division, Tracy Smunson and Gene Barthel. Somebody has to keep us honest and make sure our data is correct. Garbage in is garbage out. So we have 37 sworn officers that are all adding data to our system. So these guys do a tremendous job coding those calls. They have to enter each citation separately. They take all the lobby traffic. They do the fingerprints. Many people come to us for fingerprints for their job. They come to the lobby to pay parking tickets. They come to file complaints. These two do a tremendous job taking care of all that traffic and then making sure that all our data is entered correctly. So they do an outstanding job. Next, I want to talk a little bit about special operations. That's under the supervision of Captain Tracy Schaefer. As you know, he's 37 years of experience in law enforcement. He's retiring in May. He's done a tremendous job for the Watertown Police Department. But the special operations, for you who don't know, is they oversee any extracurricular activities that we do, like parades, presentations, those types of things. He also oversees the K-9 division as well as the school resource officers. So he stays pretty busy with the the crime-free multi-housing and all that. So this is just a good example of how policing isn't just policing, right? We're involved in the community. There's a ton of presentations that go on. Nobody really sees this, but we're out there interacting with the public every day in positive ways, and I just give them a lot of credit for the division he runs. The K-9 program, that's been hugely successful. As you know, we have two K-9s. Officer Gamber has Bono and Officer Trump has Sadie. They've had over 100 deployments in 2018, resulting in over 100 charges for drug charges, and here's those numbers. But in addition to that, they do presentations and also community events. Keep in mind that they're patrol officers, right? So they're out there taking calls and going to calls for service while they're driving around looking for our drug activity. So they do amazing work. School resource officers, it's a whole nother program that if you really had time to look and see all that they do for this community, it's amazing. The work that they do really frees up our patrol officers to spend a lot more time out on the streets. They work hand in hand with the school and the community, and it's amazing what they can accomplish. I was a school resource officer, and they've taken it well beyond what I ever did. So kudos to Officer Beauchamp and Officer Strickerts. Professional standards, he does internal affairs, background investigation, police training, grant writing, policy management. That's Captain Remmers, excuse me. He does all our internal affairs. This is an interesting number. If you can see, we had a total of 11 complaints that were received. And keep in mind, those are probably, the majority of those are generated from internally. So when we do video reviews and reviews of our cases, sometimes there's a misunderstanding of a policy or some minor mistakes being made. So keep in mind that doesn't represent public complaints. That represents all complaints. But out of those 11 complaints, there was 21 allegations of policy violations. There was 8 inquiries made, and only 6 of those were sustained for minor policy violations. So out of 22,000 calls for service that our officers go on, we had 6 sustained minor policy violations. That's an incredible number. We have an incredible police force. I'm a little biased, but we do. And here's just our training numbers. Just to give you an example, our total training hours are 3,834 total within the whole police department. That's not all the training we do. That's just the documented training. These guys are constantly training on policy. Policing is an ever-changing world. Supreme Court rulings, tactics, everything's always changing. So we have to be proactive and be on top of our game, and this is how we do that, through training. All right, then the operations division. This is the division I oversee. It's the patrol division, the criminal investigation division, and the animal control division. I could not do my job without those 5 people, including Chris, 6 people that work extremely hard to make this a well-functioning patrol division and criminal investigation division. It's not my work that makes this incredible. It's their work. But Chris Christensen is our animal control officer, as you know. He has done an amazing job. I mean, this is probably one of the smartest investments we made as a city, is to bring him onto our police department. The animal control calls, there was if you add all those up, it adds up to about 1,700 calls that was handled total from all personnel, but Chris handles the lion's share of that. But in addition to that, he can enforce code. So he's going around writing parking tickets and those types of things. We're going to see what his work has accomplished in that area, but he's a tremendous asset that really frees up our patrol officers to work the more serious stuff. So with back-to-back winters and a lot of snow, Chris has been an asset in parking enforcement. As you can see, our total revenue is up 156% for parking violations, 125% up for tickets issued. That's not because we're going crazy and just finding violations everywhere. We've had 2 pretty bad winters, and we had a lot of snow, and a lot of snowbird tickets were issued. This isn't a proud number by any means. There's nothing worse than we have to do is go out and issue tickets for parking violations. It's not fun. There's so many ways that the public could be informed with all the Notify Me, Facebook. There's so many different ways. So I really hope that we reduce that number, and we're going to work on some education campaigns to reduce that number so less people are getting tickets. But if it wasn't for Chris, we'd be out there all day holding up, all our officers just out there writing parking tickets. So some good news. Our roads are safer. Total traffic citations, like the chief said, are down 19%. Speeding citations are down 53%. And this is the big number that you really need to pay attention to is injury accidents are down 31%. So you ask why? Why is that happening? Our guys aren't out there writing tickets or what happened? So you can see this is our accident, and you can see here injury accidents are down to 93. It's under 100, which is an amazing number. So why did that happen? Well, there's several different reasons. I mean, last year in 2018, we were short-staffed. There's no doubt. We were down about 2 officers, and we were having a hard time finding qualified applicants. We have now got that vacancy filled, but the more important reason was the grants that we got in 2016 and 2017. Those road safe road safer roads grants were an incredible asset, and I just want to touch a little bit on that because it's important that we make sure that these grants that we're getting are effective and that they're actually serving the purpose we got the grant for. So this is a kind of a layout of 2016 to 2017 grant year. You could see that we invested 584 hours of officer overtime, and that was paid through that grant, so it didn't cost the city anything. We wrote 570 speeding citations because of those efforts, 14 impaired driving citations, 53 seatbelt tickets, and 9 distracted driving citations in that period. So we do that, and we did that for a couple years, got these grants. And in 2018, we made a tactical decision not to get that grant and go for equipment because we needed the equipment, and also we wanted to see if our efforts are paying off. And I think that's the main reason we're seeing that reduction in accidents, 31% getting that number down, is the direct result of getting those grants. So those guys worked really hard, and it's an impressive number. I can't emphasize that more. Alcohol arrests. This is where we have some bad news. Our alcohol arrests, our DUIs are up 18%. I don't understand it. It's just such a preventable thing. And no matter how much education and prevention we go out there, those numbers just seem to keep climbing. But there are some reasons why they climb, and when we take these numbers and we try and figure that out so that we can deploy our resources better. So in 2018, we have Corporal Scott Price became a certified drug recognition expert. That's an incredibly hard curriculum. It's a huge accomplishment. It's really difficult. Not anybody can just go through this class and get certified. He did a tremendous job. In 2018, he did 19 impaired drug driving investigations. So he's not available all the time. So he's on call. He can be called out, but he's not available all the time. So that number probably would be higher if we had somebody trained like that all the time. So you look at the possession of marijuana arrests in comparison to the DUI arrests, and you see that graph almost identical. So there is a correlation between drug driving and DUI arrests in Watertown. So that's something that we're going to pay some attention to. Drug continues to be a major concern across the state and the county and Watertown. Like the chief said, our drug arrests are up 31%. Marijuana is up 48%. So obviously we all know why that is. With the legalization happening all around us, it's easier to get, it's easier to transport. It's coming into Watertown. Controlled substance, meth, that 7% is just the possession charges. Okay, so you look at the ingestion, that's where you see that there's a bigger problem out there. That's where we arrest somebody for being under the influence of a controlled substance, 40% up. So there's a big problem. We have a big problem with drugs. And so I just talked to the chief earlier. We have our detective sergeant looking at a comprehensive response to that prevention and coupled with enforcement. So here's just some graphs for your sorry about that. Some graphs for your visual people. You can see that controlled substance, it's just on the rise. We got to get ahead of that. But that's not just Watertown. It's not a Watertown problem. It's a country problem. And ingesting a toxic substance, you can see that's pretty much mirroring the possession of controlled substance. Some good news. This is really cool. Last year we started seeing this trend of underage drinking between 18 and 21-year-olds. So you can see that climb. It seems like in 2014 it just started climbing. And there's several reasons for that with the increase of the college population and other reasons, but it was climbing to an alarming rate. So we formed a coalition. We arranged for the school and a whole bunch of people to get together and figure this thing out. So we met and we met and we met and we figured out some prevention programs, some PSAs. We worked directly with Lake Area Tech. They were tremendous in that. And it's an incredible number, whether it looks like it or not. We actually stopped that trend and went down a little bit. So this year we're going to capitalize on that. We're going to double down on that. And we're going to keep those prevention programs going and see if we can get that number to be a lot lower. You know, if our young adults are not getting arrested, they're performing better, they're better citizens, it's better for the community if we get that number down. So we're going to keep pushing that and see if we can get that number way down. But it goes to show you what the community can do together if we work together. Adult arrests are up 15% from last year. A lot of that's because of the drugs. But the juvenile arrests for alcohol and drugs continue to be low and declining. We have really low numbers for juvenile arrests. The school and Watertown Healthy Youth and everybody that works together really keeps those numbers down, and it's incredible. So here's some numbers for you to look at. They're really low. I mean, possession of marijuana, 14 out of all the kids in Watertown. Possession of controlled substance, that could be meth or it could be, pills or any prescription drugs, and then consuming alcohol. So you can see it kind of goes up and down each year for some reason, but they do a tremendous job there. This is a big concern of ours. We're going to be focusing on that and working with the schools and the other prevention people. But vaping has gotten out of control, as you probably all know. You can see it's skyrocketing from 34 last year to 71 this year. Our school resource officers spend a lot of time writing these tickets and seizing these devices, and I don't think there's enough health information out there yet for us to really know the consequences of our youth using this tool, but we all know the high content of nicotine and the dangers of that, so we're going to be working on stopping that earlier in a child's life. So that's the end of the presentation, but just want to thank you guys for your support. We couldn't do it without you. I would encourage anybody out there in the public to go on our website and look at that data. We want to be completely transparent, and if they have any suggestions on how we could do a better job, to give us a call. So,
Thank you. Excellent report. Let's give him a hand. Proud of our police department.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any questions or comments? Councilman Danforth?
First of all, I'm going to preface my questions with a statement. And recently we had the Harbor Bar fire down there, and I see Chief Kranz is back there, and it's really amazing to see what a community does and how much respect we bring out for the fire and the police and the emergency services personnel when we have an event. And it's easy to forget about that when we don't have events. So congratulations to all you guys, and that's kind of prefacing my next part of my questions here. Without question, probably the number one question I get in regards to our public safety here has to do with drugs throughout the community. As I look at our numbers, it's great that they're going down, but if we had more assets, and I'm assuming most of those assets are going to be living assets, patrol officers, canine dogs, whatever, what could we realistically do with our numbers? The public wants this stopped. But what do we do about it? And you're right, Tim, that this isn't a Watertown issue. We can't forget that. But what can we as Watertown do if we had more? If we reprioritize parts of our budget, parts of our assets to the police department, and eventually I'm going to ask Doug the same question and the street department the same question. what would that mean to this report after that fact?
Well, obviously, enforcement is a big part of any drug reduction, right? So our canines work directly with our patrol officers. If we could free those canines up to be more targeted, to be more flexible. Right now, they work a shift, whatever shift they're assigned to, because we have to have bodies in the seat, right? We have to have a minimum number of officers. So if we had more flexibility, filling that minimum staff with our canine officers, working in conjunction with our investigators, I do think we would get more arrests. But this isn't a problem that we can arrest our way out of, right? So there's a lot of programs that are going on in our community and across the state and across the country that we're trying to get that pendulum to swing back. So not to avoid your question, but I do want to recognize drug court and those types of things that are being done, but it's not enough. So we do need to make those arrests. We need to look at the accountability after we make these arrests, right? It can't be just a slap on the wrist, especially with the distribution level. We have to hold them more accountable, whether it's, I know legislation is looking at the presumptive probation issue and whether we should swing back the other way, right? Instead of everybody gets probation, maybe look at the higher level offenders and make them accountable, put them in jail. But we have one drug investigator that works really closely with the state, right? So he's pretty much on their hip all day long, working higher level stuff, right? So it's the lower level users and dealers, the smaller level user and dealers that we're not paying much attention to right now. We're looking at the big guy. So I think with additional officers, additional assets, would it improve? Yeah, it would help the numbers. I would agree. Do you agree, Chief?
I think the numbers would go up for a while until you can start making a difference, for sure. You can't overburden the court system because then they come up with other programs as well. But I think it takes a lot of prevention efforts too, and we've put a lot of our resources into that, not as much as we'd like to, obviously. We've partnered with different community organizations to try and get the message out of why you should not use marijuana. Everybody thinks it's kind of just a mild thing. It's just, it's like alcohol, but it leads to other things. There's a lot of prevention efforts that are going on within the state and within the city. I think it just needs to be more of that as well as the enforcement part of it. But like Tim said, being able to free up some of those canines to be able to do more. Right now, our smaller cases come from our patrol officers on a traffic stop. They'll find the pipe, they might talk with them, they may get a warrant for their house, they may make another arrest because there's more there, and that kind of ends. Like Tim said, we've got other people that are working from there on if they can. So it takes a combination of all those things, and we're doing what we can with the manpower we have. We've got a lot of things in the works, but do we have the magic bullet? No. Nobody in the state really does. Nobody in the United States really does. It's something that's, I think we're going to see that pendulum start to come the other way eventually. Right now the numbers are climbing, but I think they're going to peak out and start to come back the other way. Unfortunately, we didn't see that this year yet, but we're still gearing towards that.
The more arrests we make, the more people that are going to be put in front of a judge and ordered counseling, and get their life straightened out. That trickle effect is going to come back. Thursday, I'll myself will be in the middle school all day long, just talking to middle school students about drugs, because we don't have enough officers to go in and do that themselves. So we're all working together to do it, and we use what resources we have, and I think we're doing pretty good. We're doing good in Watertown. But thanks for the question.
Councilman Vilhauer?
First of all, I again repeat what Mike said about thanking the work that you do and the fire rescue, street department. I mean, this time of the year especially, kudos to all of you. To echo what you were saying, I listened twice to Governor Noem last week talking about the drug problem, particularly meth. So, obviously it is something that has got the attention of people at the state level. But I remember something that your department has said on a number of occasions that I want to touch on. We were talking about liberalization of marijuana. I feel like we're losing that battle across the country. And there are two things that stuck with me. One is that as the liberalization of marijuana has increased, the meth problem has increased because now the market is not there for marijuana anymore because it's so accessible. As a result, we're seeing other drugs, meth being one. Is that, you're nodding your heads, I'm assuming that's still a fair statement in your opinion?
100%.
Yes.
Okay. And the second thing, I remember about a year ago, I think, Lee, you sent out a report to us that, I forget who compiled it, but it was statistics from across the country where marijuana has been liberalized, and it showed that the trends in any number of crimes that were taking place since the liberalization. Do you remember what?
Correct.
You know, it might be useful to send that out again, or any comments that you might have about that, Lee?
That came from our state DCI. They're really good about passing on things that they get from conferences or conventions they go to nationally. What's happening in the nation can happen here in South Dakota, and it is with methamphetamines. It does, the legalization of marijuana does lead to more things like Tim was talking earlier with the drugged, not drunk, drugged driving. Those numbers go up. We had, would you say 18 or 19 last year? I mean, those numbers will triple easily if it's legalized, those type of things. So it leads to other types of criminal issues as well, yes.
Again, if you've got that readily available, sending that out and making it available to the public, I think would be worth time, because I was very enlightening as I went through it, and scary.
Yes. I'll see if I can dig that up, Glenn, you bet.
All right, thanks. Anyone else? Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate it. Item number 6 is the 2018 year-end report for Prairie Lakes Wellness Center. And John Small's here to give that.
Okay, evening. Thank you for some time here. Is that better? All right. Thank you for allowing me time to speak. And like the police department, you like to talk about things like this. And I spoke last year through the first basically 9 months, and gave you numbers which were blowing the old place out of the water and that. But what I'm going to talk about today is just a short presentation, but it's for the first full year that we were in operation, 2018, January from December, and the numbers are still very good. So to start out, I'll give you a little history of attendance. Back in 2016, at the old place, at our old facility, the rec center, the full year there, January through December, we had 98,000 people check in at the front desk. And then in 17, when we opened in March, and plus we had numbers from the old facility at the January and February, we had 226,000 plus. And then this year, this past year at 18, a full year, we 280,000 people. So, and at times it was wild in there. Don, you can attest to that. A few times you were there when you saw it. So, but it was good. It was very good. And then memberships, for just to kind of break it down. December of 17, when we end the year, we had, for family, we had a 904, and then a year later we had 980, so that was a plus 76. Couples went from 194 to 291, that's a plus 97. Adults 443 to down to 414, that's a minus 29 memberships. And then the 60 plus singles, we jumped just 5 new members or additional members, and 60 plus couples, we had a plus 11. Those all but, well, the first 2 were very good, very outstanding. The adults, disappointing, but what I attribute that is the fact that a lot of our adults end up getting couple memberships. We kind of went with the trend of other facilities around the country that if there's 2 people living in the same household, they do not have to be married. They can get a couple membership, and we had a lot of people take advantage of that, as well as our competition around town too, and that because we are a family facility first and foremost, and we have, as you see, a lot of families. They were more than what I anticipated, and kids are kids, and and sometimes if you're a single individual, you just don't want to deal with them and that. So you go somewhere if they just have the basic place to work out. People prefer that without the kids, but we will always cater to the families because that's what the main reason this facility was built for. And then for the 60 plus singles and couples, The reason they didn't grow as much is the program, insurance company has a program called Silver Sneakers, and if you get a certain type of 65 plus actually, and if you get a certain type of insurance program, they will pay for your membership, and so those numbers are not on this chart here, and I do not have that. I should have brought the numbers with you, but they dipped in there, but we still get reimbursement from our silver sneaker members or senior members. So basically, from December 17th through December of 18th, we increased about 160 memberships, or from basically 1,973 to 2,133 memberships. Okay, just a few items, birthday parties and special events. And from January through December, we had 197 birthday parties come through, and that's despite the fact there's maybe it's 4 weekends where we did not have the room to have birthday parties because of swim meets, and that's so still very popular. One thing we like to do, what we want to gear towards as much as fitness and wellness is the social part, the fun times for families and kids to come in, and we want to have more activities in the building to basically where we have a function going on and people can leave and say, God, that was fun. I hope the Wellness Center does that again. It was good to bring the kids up to. And a prime example was we had trick-or-treat day on Halloween Day from 4 to 6 o'clock back in October, and not knowing what to expect, but we had 24 businesses or had booths around the building that gave out candy, and we had over 1,800 people go through. And the mayor can contest to that too, because she was involved in handing out the candy. So it was overwhelming, and people enjoyed it, and we will continue that. And then also what we're doing also now is with our seniors, every other month every month we have try to have an activity. Every other month we have bingo, and then or else potluck, and that brings in 20 to 35 participants, and they really enjoy that. So it's, like I said, we just want to do more than just provide the fitness and the wellness and that. Okay, tournaments from first November through April 13th of this coming April, out of 24 weekends, minus 3 weekends of the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. We have a total of 21 weekends, and we have 15 sporting events going on at the facility. 6 basketball tournaments, 4 swim meets, 3 volleyball tournaments, 1 wrestling meet, soccer tournament, and pickleball tournament. And they bring in maybe as small as 50 participants up to, hundreds. We had a wrestling meet 2 weekends ago, and it was just, the gymnasium was packed. The bleachers were packed. People from all around, and now last weekend we had a swim meet, and then this coming weekend we're having the State B swim meet. And this is the first year in 15 years that they were able to hold swim meet, because in the past they were meters, the pool was, and we're yards now, so we can have the state swim meet. And this is the B state swim meet, and next year they'll host the A state swim meet. And talking to Donna Biersbach today, and they have every swim team in the state but one is coming to it, and it's going to be huge. So the parking will be very tight this weekend. So we anticipate, we have 15 events, and we're trying to work on some things for this summer, and I just see this growing, and that we, as the Wellness Center, we put on probably 3 or 4 of these events that you have on here, and we'd like to do more, but staffing is just kind of tough, so but we hope to work on that. Let's see here. Okay, group fitness. Oops, excuse me. Group fitness attendance. Group fitness aerobics class, land and water. That's kind of I feel, some of my staff will argue with me, but I feel that's our bread and butter of the facility. And we started taking attendance for the class, for all the classes back in June. And that's so So from June 18th through the end of January, we had 20,833 people come take class and that. And some people may come twice a day, some come 2 or 3, 4 times a week. It varies, but very popular. Ann Rylance, our group fitness coordinator, she is very creative and is very thorough on what type of program she has, and she puts a lot of time and effort into it, and our classes show it. And that water classes, we started the attendance in August, so through the first 6 months from August, we had 4,405 people, and of the land classes, we provide about 53 classes a week, and water we have about 16, and if you break it down per month and times it by 12, we probably, between the land and the water, a full year would be about 40,000 people, which I think is outstanding. And that, so. And then the budget. For 2018, we set the budget, the expense budget at $1,515,000, and the revenue was $1,527,000. And what we came up with, the final numbers was expense, we were under what we projected, $1,487,000, and for revenue we had $1,683,000. So we had come up with, at the end of the year, a little over $195,000 profit surplus. So, and that was surprising. I was not knowing what to expect. I know there was a lot of concern out there that will the city have to subsidize the wellness center, but I was hoping to maybe the $60,000, $70,000 mark, but we had a good year. Do I anticipate this to continue every year? Probably not as high. We will make money. The honeymoon is over as far as our facility. Now it's a wellness center. They expect it. They anticipate. It's not. They still enjoy it and appreciate it, but it's not like the first year and a half that we had, and the memberships won't be coming in as high as they have in the past. But we still will continue to get memberships, and that because of what we provide. So.
Great.
That's any questions?
I have a question. You mentioned when you were going through the tournaments, and those tournaments are awesome for our community because those folks who come from out of town patronize our businesses. So that's really good for us. You said we had a lot and we'd do more if the staff could handle it. What is the potential? Like if you didn't have any staffing constraints,
well, we could put on, the weekends that we have open in the wintertime, maybe we can, like, prime example, I myself put on a volleyball tournament in April every year, and I end up and we probably gross 11, 12,000, net about 8,000, so it's a very good, weekend and that, and I end up doing another one. I'm going to have one in March. It's not going to be as big, but we'll probably make half, which is still an excellent amount. But it's just time consuming. It's not just that day that you put the tournament on. It's it's weeks ahead of time of setting it up, sending out the information, the teams coming in, individuals or teams coming in. There's this constant phone calls, people information. How do you run this? Who's all going to be coming here? It's just a lot of time. And then the week before the tournament, you basically almost drop everything else to get ready for it because there's just a lot of preparation for it, and that. So, didn't plan on this type of question, but ideally, if we have a fitness director / program, and we have aquatics director / program director, and they do some programming, but they have their main program is aquatics and fitness, and a regular program director, full-time program director, we can do so much more special events, more the fun things that we can do for the community, like the Halloween, and that. It's just, we spread it out. We try to make it even for everybody staff-wise, because we only have, I shouldn't say only, but six full-time staff, and we did beginning last week, we have a full-time janitor cleaning position. So we have 7 now, but it's a big building. And that we run by we have about 120 part-time people.
So is it mostly the full-time folks that are doing the planning and prep?
Yes, yes.
So,
And we get help from the part-time, but it's through our direction. And that's usually during that. And we try not
Set
to
up.
use part-time. We use as many volunteers as we can, because the more people you have working, you pay, then the less money we make. And we want to make it worthwhile. If we're going to spend a whole weekend, we don't want to make $1,000. I mean, we will, but we want to make it worthwhile for us and for the city. So,
right. Councilman Y?
John, you said you had 2,133 memberships. How many people does that equal? Do you have that number?
I do. 7,751.
7,000.
I take that back, Josh. 5,580, and then we would add the youth, and then also LATI comes with 7,751.
That's total.
Yeah, that's. But far as the memberships, 5,580.
And then one of your earlier slides, I think it was your first slide or second slide, it showed how many people, and you said that was people that checked into the front desk. So that's not someone coming in for a tournament
No.
that is here for a wrestling tournament. Those are actually people that
That is correct. We could down the road try to estimate or get numbers from because it's not just the Park and Rec or the Wellness Center putting these events on. It's the swim team, the Wrestling Association, and we could probably get numbers from them, but I have not done that yet.
And then, I don't know if this is a question for you or Kristen, but the surplus money, the $195,000, where does that money go at the end of the year?
In our go ahead.
That will stay in the Prairie Lakes Wellness Center fund balance, so.
It can be used for daily operating?
Yep, operating.
And it's always, they say the rule of thumb, it's nice to have 1/3 of your operating budget in reserve. And we have a ways to build that up. We had a very small reserve. Well, we had like 53,000 going into 18, and now we're over 200,000. So, but that's my goal, is to get up to at least 1/3, but higher.
You talked about parking being tight for these tournaments and things like that. Is there a future expansion? Can we expand parking? Something that needs to be looked at?
Well, yes, I suppose. I mean, people, they find a place. It's fortunate there's some of our tournaments we go over. Like my volleyball tournament I have in April, we'll be using the middle school too, and our gyms will all be full, and they move over to the middle school. And that if there's not going on in middle school, then we use the back parking lot of the middle school. That helps out a lot, so it all depends what event's going on. And they swing around and park in the front too. I mean, our side, we have a south parking lot, which is our main front entrance parking, and then we have the east parking lot, which is a lot of our members, but that doesn't really get that full on weekends. So they swing around over there too. Mm-hmm.
Councilman Danforth?
John, a couple questions. You and I, way back before this ever even opened, made projections in regards to the performance of the facility, and we're far exceeding that, which I think is a great thing for your staff, and the facility, and what the community has welcomed and accepted. But question I have is, when your expenses are there, you're paying for every ounce of everything within that building. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the 4 gym area per se really is a dedicated park and rec area, equivalent to that's where those programs are at. You use them on weekends, but Terry, that's right, isn't it? It's kind of the park and rec portion of the building. So it's important that we understand that there's a lot more going on in that building than the numbers you reported today.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, Terry, what it's done for you guys and your programs in regards to the ability to add programs or add participants or whatever. It'd be good to hear that information too at some point, because that's all a part of what we all have here that we're dealing with in this total facility. So it'd be good to get an understanding of where we're at with those things too. But I commend you. It's nice to see those numbers.
Yeah.
And it's not many assets that we have that pay for themselves. So it's good to see.
Good. Thank you.
Councilman Lallam?
John, I just want to thank you for your guys' work on this. I had a gentleman from Sioux Falls that's a friend of mine that they had came up for one of the soccer tournaments, and they said it was the best facility they had been in this year. So little pat on the back for your guys' folks there that put that on. He said it was very well done, and he was very impressed. So
Good.
that's all I had.
Our the swim meets, every meet that they've had here has exceeded the numbers from at the old place, and it's raves. You know, people they think it's great, and that so.
It is great. Councilman Roby?
I know.
As you build your surplus, and hopefully we'll be in the black every year, is there any plan to start allocating some of that towards future equipment purchases and started building that kitty up for that? Because your ongoing replacement is going to happen.
Well, as far as equipment like cardio and weight, we have it already in the budget about like this year for 2000. Last year we spent about 45,000. This year we have budgeted 48,000. We were able to bring half the machines we have now. Half came from the old facility, the better ones, and then we bought over 20 cardio machines and a whole new weight room, free weights, when we moved in, part of the operating or the fund budget. So we're sitting very good, and we're replacing machines. The old days, we would keep a treadmill for 15, 16 years. Now, kind of rule of thumb, we trade them out after 8 years, and that because that's when they start nickel and diming you, and have downtime and that. So we're able to replace them on an earlier stage, which we pass them on to the fire department or the police department, and that. So or the school too we have, but we feel with the average of 48,000 a year, we'll be fine as far as replacing them. And that's part of the operating budget, so we do not have to take out of reserve.
I think the goal of the, kind of as you're talking, more of the capital improvements is, yes, we want to start to have the wellness center build its own fund for its capital improvements down the road, because we know it's a new facility, but that's not always going to be the case. There will be times when maybe the pool has to have a repair or update or anything like that. So that is the goal, as we start to now see year to year what we are making, that potentially putting it aside for those capital. So we're not having to get money in from the other, basically the capital improvement fund or the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Anything else, Councilman Vilhauer?
Just want to clarify, the revenue numbers there, John or Kristen, those do not include the various smaller sponsorships that we have sold up there, do they? I mean, like Trav's, Dakota Bank.
That would be yes, that would include that revenue.
So that is in there. Okay.
That is all within the Prairie Lakes Wellness Center fund. Okay. So the ones that they've received for that year, it doesn't take into account any of the receivables that are.
We did not budget for that because at that time when we put the budget together, we didn't know what to expect. So,
but they are in the actual figures.
Okay. Yes.
But they are in the actual.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? All right, thanks.
Okay, well, thank you.
Don't leave.
No, I'm not. I'm here for the duration here.
Okay, item number 7, approval of a Prairie Lakes Wellness Center full-time and part-time employee membership policy.
Thank you.
I'll wait till the passed out here.
Yeah, I think I got those. I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, as I presented to you just a few minutes ago, our facility runs very heavily on part-time individuals and in all departments. And back, just a little history, back in 1985 when the facility opened, the old rec center by the school, it was just from day one, it was automatic that all part-time and all employees, full and part-time, received a membership. A user membership. And a lot of that was for recruiting, but also just to help offset low wages. And not here to complain about what we pay our employees. It is what it is compared to other businesses around the community, we are lower. And this was that was very appreciated by our employees. Not that everybody used it, but they knew that it was there if they wanted it. And this continued up through this past fall. And we found out this practice, the IRS did not say this was a practice that we should have or continue, so we had to discontinue this and not provide a free membership to the employees. And it upset a number of them, and they just felt that they weren't appreciated. And it's a point that we need a lot of our part-time employees more than they need us.
John, just to be clear, the IRS didn't say that we can't be giving this benefit. They said that we need to account for the benefit.
In the way we were given, yes.
They need to show it on as a benefit
Yes.
that they're receiving.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't bring
Yeah.
that up. Yeah. And that's so, Terry and Jay and Kristen and Bruce Bueller was involved, and the mayor also, and numerous other people. We sat down many times from November through this last week before, to come up with a program that would best utilize and help our part-time, all our employees, as well as doing it the right way. And we came up with the sheet that Jay and Terry handed out to you. And I know you didn't have an opportunity to read through it, but I'll hit the main points. It's basically stating that all full-time and South Dakota retirement that meet the South Dakota retirement employees can have a membership of their choice, and all part-time employees that meet the conditions of our personnel policy, that they receive a single Fitness Plus membership. And if they wish to upgrade it to a family, a couple, they may do so, but they will pay the difference. And also, this membership would be considered a benefit to each individual. It'll show up on their monthly pay stub, the value of their membership, and then at the end of the year, on their W-2 form, it'll show, and they will pay the proper tax on it. And these individuals will there's some guidelines. They'll just have a certain amount of time that they can accept it or decline it, and then they will just have a window each year of whether they can join or not. And all new employees, part-time employees that were hired throughout the year, after a 90-day probationary period, then they will be eligible to pick that, take a membership if they wish to, and that. So, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask, or just asking for your support and endorsement on it.
Councilman Danforth?
So if I am an employee there, can I pick family membership and get that free? When it says we select the...
If you are a full-time employee or employee that meets the South Dakota retirement, you can.
You pick a family, you don't get a single, free single.
You pick what you want. If you're just individual, you're not married, and...
Well, right, I wouldn't pick a family then,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
But I can pick a family at that point.
And the reason we chose that is, our members, our full-time staff, when they come to use the pool with their kids, they come to work out, they don't get the leisure of not, being occupied. You see stuff goes on, well, got to go take care of it. Or somebody will come up and ask you questions, and that's, so you don't get to enjoy it. I tell the story when I first started back in the early 90s, when my kids were young, and I never took them swimming at the pool because it just wasn't enjoyable, because you just saw stuff and you had to take care of it, or people would come and interact. So you don't get the enjoyment of working out or having fun with your family as an employee there, because the clock doesn't stop at 5 o'clock in our business. You're there, you're occupied, and that weekends, mornings, whatever, and that. So yes, and then we give as I mentioned, the part-time people would get a single Fitness Plus.
Any other questions? Councilman Vilhauer?
I just want to clarify, this is for all Watertown city employees, not just.
No, just the
Just
Prairie
wa-
Lakes
just the
Wellness Center.
Okay,
There's a different policy.
We have one coming up after
okay,
this.
gotcha, okay.
So you have 7 full-time. How many of your employees meet the SDRS but aren't full-time?
Um,
Do you know?
we,
6 more in addition to the 7? So there's about 13 total that would get the membership of their choice.
yes,
And then how many part-time are eligible?
approximately 74.
74 more people are eligible for
And
the
on the and on
single.
the sheet, you can see all the different departments: the front desk, the child care, the custodians, aquatics on down. And that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll look for a motion to approve, and this will have its actual action. This would be a recommendation to the council. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Roby. Second by Y. Any discussion? See none, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries.
Okay,
Oh,
well-
I meant to ask, did this go through the park board
Yes.
and in concept, so they are aware of it and they support it?
Yeah, with recommendation for approval.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Thank you. What were you going to say, John?
Thank you.
I interrupted you. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, item number 8 is approval of a full-time city employee benefit policy for Prairie Lakes Wellness Center membership.
Okay, this program is a program that we had back in 2006, 7, and 8, if I'm not off 1 year. But it's a program that the city provided all their employees a benefit of reimbursement of their membership. And how that worked out was they paid for their membership up front, and is either in full or through automatic bank draft. And then as they attended the facility and checked in and worked out, the more they worked out, the more that they got reimbursed. And what they got reimbursed on is what we're promoting now too is a single basic membership, which comes to about $462.77. And they can upgrade to a family or a couple if they wish to, but what they would be reimbursed in up to the full amount. And what the program we have is if you for a full year, say beginning this March 1st through February 28th of 20, if you average one time a week, which over the year, which would be 52 times for the year, you would be reimbursed 1/3 of a single membership, which approximately $141. If you average 2 times a week, which is 104 times, $283, and then if you came 3 or more times average a week throughout the year, you'd get the free membership, or I guess it's $429. Wrong number, but this really worked out well because the more an individual worked out, obviously the better they're going to be and feel, but then the more money they get reimbursed. On our side, the city side or the wellness center side, ideally you'd want to pay out full for everybody, but not everybody's going to achieve that. But the more you pay out, then the healthier your employees are going to be, and you have your less sick days and less people injured in that. So it was a very successful program. 2008 is when the economy started going down, and the city decided to discontinue it. But it's been a topic ever since from a lot of our departments that would like to get back involved in it. And in the past, the money of reimbursement came out of the city hall or the finance department, but the wellness center is going to pick up this, pay out the payments this time around. So,
Okay, I ran the numbers pretty carefully under a multitude of different scenarios. This is a moneymaker for the city, for the wellness center, if it's promoted. And the reason it is because members for the most part, you looked at the memberships at the wellness center, most of our memberships are families. The vast majority are families. We have a few singles and a few couples, but most of our memberships are families. So if a person doesn't join, we have zero contribution from that employee. But if this program causes them to join, and they join with a family, they'll be generating the revenue for a family membership and receiving reimbursement for a single membership. And having participated in this program, I consider myself a very regular exerciser. But even this incentive didn't draw me inside in the summertime, and I never received 100% reimbursement. And even going 4, 5, 6 times a week during the winter months and cold weather, it's really hard to go inside in the summer when the weather's nice. And so it's pretty hard to go 3 times a week on the average over the full year. So maybe we'll get people that are getting 100% reimbursement for the single membership. Even if we do, a lot of them will be family members, so we're still generating revenue by doing this. So I think from a revenue perspective, it's a good deal for the city, but also the morale boosting. It's a selling tool for us when we're recruiting employees, and the health benefits are, people are doing this all across our nation because it creates a healthier, more productive workforce. So that's good. And then I made a comment earlier, maybe people disagree with this because I see it didn't make it to the program, but I don't think that it would be right to give a person 2 check marks on the same day. Personally, think that one, if you exercise 4 times one day, good for you, you get 1 check mark.
And we can add, Terry and and Jay discussed that this afternoon, and I forgot to mention something. So we can.
Unless it's,
and
I mean, maybe
and
somebody disagrees.
No, I agree. And we do get a few people that'll come in twice a day, not many, but we can put that in also.
We might want to make this policy say something if it becomes an issue. You're worried about people, and maybe they've done this in the past where they come in, bleep their card, and leave, and they don't actually work out. And that's if that. I mean, we could add some wording.
Yes, we can do that, but we eventually catch them, and we'll comment and maybe have them discontinue the program because they're taking advantage of it, and it's not right.
And I'll just comment, Mayor, with the new software, we have the ability for those type of, where when we run a report on Mayor Sarah Karen on your workout, we can limit it to just daily check-ins.
Right.
So it would bypass a multiple check-in to show us. But I agree the language maybe need to be in the agreement. But the new software that we purchased would have that ability to just do a check-in by day versus
right. Well,
by
and
time,
I myself have checked in more than once on a day where I've just come for a quick 20-minute walk,
Right.
and then I come back and finish my workout later just because of my schedule or whatever. I don't think that should count as 2.
Right. And that's our plan at the year's end, to print out everybody who signed up. It'll be check-ins by day, not
Yes.
each individual check-in will be check-in by day. So
The
the new
software
software
should
will help that.
Yeah.
So
Are there questions or comments? Councilman Danforth?
How many city employees today have memberships there? And what does that equate to in terms of people?
Approximately 66.
And out of how many?
And we're hoping maybe 30 or 40 people will take advantage of this. Don't know. Well, more additional.
Okay. Because I got to be honest, I'm not sure I'm sold on it. I'm not sure why. I can understand the first policy that we just went through, and John, I think your reasoning is good.
Okay.
Because when you're an employee there and you're there on your personal time, you do answer to those around you, and there's no question about that. But I really do question why we would offer our city employees a different discount than we would offer other corporate discounts. We offer a 20% discount.
We do.
Those are taxpayers.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why we would offer more than what we would offer any other corporation.
I mean, that was discussed as part of the focus group, and we felt as a city of Watertown, as our corporation, it's not really so much different than Prairie Lakes Healthcare System does, or what each corporation decides to do for their employees. There's many that offer, banks offer a $60 per month reimbursement. Us, as viewing it as a corporation, felt our employees, we were gonna, not pay them, but they had to put an investment on their own to reimburse that. So we see it all over in the wellness center. Different corporations do different things. Looking at it, the city as a corporation for our employees, we felt that this was, a benefit to our employees. I mean, if that makes sense, Mike, at all, but I mean, it's just.
In other words, it's a subsidy above and beyond what the corporate discount would be by the city.
Yes.
Is really what you're saying.
There, when, let's say John signs up for this, he is going to prepay up front.
Yep.
And at a corporate rate, he's going to get that 20% discount that you speak of. But our corporation, as the city, determined to say, we will reimburse you up to a basic membership. We didn't do Fitness Plus because we didn't want to have people that don't use fitness classes and have them actually make money if they only sign up for a basic. And I don't know, Mayor, we were part of this, if you can help me explain it,
Yes.
but.
I know where you're
happy
coming
to.
from. I'm not sure I agree
There's
with
a ton
it,
of
but I know where you're
research on
coming
this, Mike. There's a reason, and if you could name some of the companies in town, if you know of them, that use this program. Does the hospital have this?
The hospital has an example, Reliant Bank, Dakota Bank, a few of the banks just, at the end of the month, you show them that you paid, you get 100% reimbursement monthly.
There's a reason they do that, and it's partly
from.
because
I'm not arguing. I'm suggesting what my opinion is based on what I've heard. So please don't take it as an argument.
Okay, I'm just giving you the reasons that people do this is because it does generate lower costs on your health care insurance, and it generates healthier workforce and healthier families, and there's a plethora of positive results, and you don't get it automatically. You have to actually use it, so it's an incentive program to encourage an employee to exercise more.
To me, basically two things. It helps the health and wellness of the individuals, and that benefits the city, and also it's the morale. You mentioned that earlier, Mayor, and it's a good thing that we can provide our employees. And is it going to be a main recruiting tool? No, but it's just one more thing that they can say, wow, this is, it's worth working for the city.
So. Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just one thing to add to the discussion. I think the catchphrase that I haven't heard used a lot here that would likely be used in the private sector and other public sectors is this is one piece of a wellness benefit to the employee's package. That wellness benefit can include reimbursements like this for exercise facilities. It can include things like the EAP that we've recently gone out for bids for, the Employee Assistance Program, and a whole myriad of things communities in the public sector have used as wellness benefits to the employees. And I think that's probably one of the same catchphrases used in the private sector, too, as being part of a wellness benefit program for the employees, which helps foster those things that the mayor indicated, reduced health costs on their insurance, on the insurance side of things, primarily is get people active to help try to eliminate some of the routine costs that the health plans otherwise typically see that can potentially be prevented through programs like these.
Right. I'd really love to expand that too. I've worked in organizations which provided wellness programs, and you can add in nutrition, counseling, massage. The former employer had a monthly neck and head massage free for all employees, and I tell you what, if you had a headache before, you didn't after, and you kind of felt really good after your 10-minute neck massage. It's a wellness benefit that makes people feel good about their work that they work at a place that appreciates them and gives back to them.
Is this a budgeted item?
This won't go into effect for our budget until
Well,
2020.
doesn't matter what year, but is
Yes,
it a
it will be.
budgeted
Oh,
line
yes,
item so we
yes.
know what the cost
Yes, so
to
when
us
we,
is for
yep,
reimbursements
so
each
what,
year? So
what
it's
we'll
not
do
lost.
is we'll try to get kind of an average as we're going about how much participation we've had. The nice thing is what's in front of you is to start in March, so we would probably capture how many employees we see in it and try to project out, and then we'd put it into the 2020 budget. Because that would be when the payout would be.
I've been asked many, many times by city employees if we're going to get this, if we're going to get this, if we're going to get this. And I've wanted to say yes to it. I've been pressing for it. And I think we really need to market it to the city employees that this benefit is out there, because the more it gets used, the less it costs the city to provide it. And in fact, it goes into the black very quickly. With it doesn't take that many members to join to offset the cost, and there's actual benefit to the revenue. So it's a good thing. Councilman Vilhauer?
I've got one question for Kristen. Does this give you any grief as far as the accounting for it from your office's standpoint?
No, this one will actually be pretty easy because it'll be a one-time. We'll keep track of it. John and his staff will provide us with what each employee should be receiving as a reimbursement, and it'll be a one-time payment on the following March's payroll. Yep.
All right. Councilman Albertson?
I think it sends the right message that if we have city employees using that beautiful facility out there, that maybe there are whole bunches of other people too. I mean, it's not a real great thing to have 60 people out of all of our employees in the city using it. And if we could up that to 120, it would be I think it sends a good message to use that facility.
I don't have exact numbers, but back when we had it back in 05 or 06, 7, and 8, it just steadily rose all 3 years, like from returns was 4,000, 5,000, and then 7,000 was the last year. And that, so I mean, it grew, and then I see the same thing now.
Anyone else? All right, I'll look for a motion to recommend this to the council. So moved. Moved by Councilman Y. Second. Second by Vilhauer. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries.
Okay, appreciate the support.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you.
All right, I had snow removal discussion on the agenda, but I think we'll just pass on that because we're running out of time. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? We do not have a need to go into executive session, so I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilman Lallam, second by Solom. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. We'll be back in 10 minutes.